What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back in the video. Today we're going over the year 2 wide receivers I'd be taking in drafts right now. I'm going to start off with Puka Nacua. Puka comes off the board in the late first round right now, and I can see how people have been a little bit hesitant taking him that early. He was a late 5th round pick in like the NFL draft last season. I mean, didn't even get drafted in every Underdog draft. So I guess on average, he was going outside the top 18 rounds. Wasn't on a ton of people's radar last season. Obviously benefits opening the season with Cup being injured and Cup being injured throughout a good portion of the season. And so I've seen, him going every single time. He never really falls at that like 1-2 turn, many times going, at pick like 8, 9. And I can see people not being pumped about that. But here's the thing. We need to remember that he didn't just have like a few spiked games. And it wasn't like, he was amazing with Cup out and then Cup came back and he wasn't that good. He had over 100 receiving yards 7 times during the regular season. Then in their one playoff game, he had 9 for 181 and a touchdown. He broke the single season receiving yardage record for rookie, 105 receptions, 1,486 yards, 12 touchdowns. Imagine if JSN had done that. I think that's what's in people's mind is like, but it wasn't a high-end prospect going into the year. If JSN had that sort of stat line, no doubt in my mind, he would be going top 5 in fantasy this season, and no one would question it. And when we think forward to this season, what exactly is going to change for Puka? The Rams used Puka perfectly last season. He was everything they wanted him to be. He was awesome for the team. He was a massive reason the team found as much success as they did. And then they made 0 moves to indicate that his role will change. So our baseline expectation should be the exact same this season. He should have a pretty similar target share, pretty similar efficiency. There's a strong chance that him as a player will just develop and get a little bit better, because it's not like he was perfect last season, but he showed everything to where it's like, he's really good. Obviously scheming was an important factor in why he was that productive, but that scheming is going to be there as well this season. So maybe he'll see very slight efficiency decreases because he had a lot of games where he busted off big plays. But the point I'm trying to make is that's going to continue from a player this good, in a system this good, coaching this good, scheming this good. None of that is changing this season. So he should definitely be going after the top guys in fantasy for wide receiver are CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, kind of at the top. Then you have that duo of Chase and Jefferson, and then you have St. Brown a little bit behind that. And then I think it's Puka. I kind of think that top 6 is relatively locked in. Maybe you want to flip-flop Lamb and Hill. Maybe you want to flip-flop Chase and Jefferson. I think St. Brown does come next, and then it's Puka. But after that, that's the ADP at that 1-2 turn. I think he's kind of locked into that spot. I think it's a good spot. And if you get into a situation where the people in your league are like, no, I can't justify taking him this early, who are they grabbing? I mean, I guess that's the thing that I kind of think about it. So you're grabbing Drake London, who's never shown he can provide that for his ADP, or never really pay off that ADP. Garrett Wilson has not yet shown that he can consistently for a full season. It's all still projection based. Maybe with Aaron Rodgers, being his quarterback now, not for a few snaps, that'll happen. But it's you start going through everyone else going after Puka, and it's they haven't done it before. Puka has only done it. And so I don't know. I think the ADP makes a lot of sense. I think people are going to be off of it, and I'd be attacking him at that spot. Moving a little bit later in drafts, my year 2-3 model. So for those of you who don't know, I have a model that basically just says, how good were you as a college prospect? Okay. Now, how good did you do in year 1? Okay. This is what I project for you in year 2 or 3, your best season. My model loves Zay Flowers. It is predicting him to have a low-end wide receiver 1 season in one of, either this year or next year. As a rookie, he finished 32nd in both PPR and half PPR. Ton of people are like, oh yeah, he's a PPR cheat code, so much better in PPR. He was literally 32nd in PPR and half PPR points per game, so I don't really know where that narrative is coming from. Kind of gets boosted a little bit because I do use him on the ground, and that just kind of helps the gap between like PPR and half. But again, it's same. He's 32nd in both. Currently coming off the board 25th for wide receivers, so a little bit, better than he finished as a rookie. But I do think there's room for growth with his efficiency. He only had 11.1 yards per reception. I think that could go up. The catch rate was pretty good, but I think the 11.1 yards per reception go up. Everyone kind of pigeonholes him into like a short area target, like only someone who gets the ball really short. If you look at reception perception, that's like the number one thing we look at. Matt Harmon's work over there in terms of like, how good wide receivers are in different areas of the field. He had an all green route tree, deep and intermediate. So he's great in all areas of the field. It was actually the short stuff that he wasn't amazing at. But he was phenomenal deep. He was phenomenal intermediate. He's just a really great route runner, a really great player. And he's someone that, yes, I do agree that maybe he's capped out a little bit just in terms of the offense, just knowing that Lamar's not going to throw for 5,000 yards. Like that's just, no matter what happens with luck, it's just not going to happen to where this offense is going to throw the ball that much, where they have 5,000 passing yards. It's just not going to happen, especially now having Derrick Henry. But I also feel like in people's minds, he's capped out as just the short area guy that, maybe maxes out at like 1,000 yards. I just don't see that. Like he was really strong against man, fantastic getting open against zone. They are going to scheme him the football, and it's like, yes, scheme touches sometimes can indicate a player who's not getting open on their own, but it can also mean a player who's just super athletic, who they're like, get him the football, okay? Any way we can, screen pass, end around, downfield, across the middle, I don't care, get Zay Flowers the football, and I think that's the Baltimore offense. So again, I understand the argument of Baltimore as a whole being capped, but that doesn't mean that Zay Flowers can't have a great year. Another thing I see people point out is, being like, oh, well, he just benefited from Mark Andrews being out. Again, it wasn't that big of a difference. It was like half a reception more for 9 more yards per game with Mark Andrews out. That is not the reason he had a good rookie season. It was just that he's a really good player, very athletic, and fits this team really nicely. So again, I don't think he's a league winner. I don't think he's someone you take as a wide receiver 25, ends up as the wide receiver 3 overall, and you've won your league. But I think he's, very, very likely to finish as a wide receiver 2 or at worst a flex option in either full PPR or half PPR. And I think that makes him a really good pick at ADP again, wide receiver 25. Someone I do think has a ceiling to blow past their ADP as a year 2 wide receiver is Tank Dell, currently coming off the board 2 wide receiver spots after Flowers as the wide receiver 27. And that's going in like the mid 4th round Underdog. So in a redraft league, that's roughly the mid 5th, maybe pushing in to the late 5th round. But yeah, Dell finished 16th in half PPR points per game last season, but that's counting. So if you look at that anywhere, any site where you look at points per game, that is counting that one game where he got hurt like instantly, didn't record a single stat. If you remove that game that he effectively did not play, he was actually 10th in half PPR points per game. And then if you want to, this is a little bit unfair, but if you want to only look at the games where he was fully healthy and played at least 50% of the snaps, which was most of his games, but it removes another 2, he was 6th. So when he was out there playing at least half the snaps, he was the wide receiver 6 in points per game. So again, if you look at points per game, he's 16th, and you're like, oh, he had a good year, but not a great year. No, it was really, really good when he was healthy. Again, obviously a little bit unfair, and we're working with a small sample there. But the point is, I wanted to highlight how good he was when healthy. Commanded at least 7 targets in 6 of 9 healthy games last season. Scored a touchdown in all 6 of those games. We also know CJ Stroud loves him. He absolutely loves Tank Dell. And that is actually important. That is something that it's like, if you have a quarterback that is like best friends with the receiver, that is something you can use as a tiebreaker and be like, well, you know what? When it's close, the ball's going to Tank Dell. He loves him. He's going to have a decent target share this season. Obviously, the one hit that he took this offseason was the Texans trading for Stephon Diggs. But I don't know, like, initially I dropped Tank. Obviously, you had to drop Tank. Like he was, I think, going in like the late second round or something like that. You had in Diggs, you had to drop him. But recently, I've actually been viewing it a little bit more positively than I think initially expected. And I think what initially, like everyone bumped down, obviously in the rankings, his ADP drops. Because of that, I think we may have been a little bit too harsh. Like, yeah, second round is, obviously too early for him. But in the mid fourth, like it feels like a really, really good spot to be taking him. And also, when you think about like what this does to the team, right? What does trading for Stephon Diggs indicate for the Texans? They are going to be one of the most pass-heavy teams in the NFL. Mixon is not some early down grinder where it's like, got to get Mixon is 20 carries, right? They'll use him. He'll do fine, but they want to throw the football. This wide receiver core, paired with Stroud, is the core of this team. That is how they want to get things done. It is glaringly obvious they want to throw the ball a ton. And when I think about, which wide receiver I expect to be the most productive, I truly don't know. Initially, I was like, well, Tank's probably third. But honestly, I would just pick out of a hat. I do not know who's going to be the most productive in fantasy. And when you look at ADPs, it seems like the public thinks they know, right? The public is putting a 20-pick gap between Nico Collins and Tank. Nico comes off the board at like 24. Diggs is at like 25. Tank Dell is at 43. That is a really, really big gap. And for something that I think is basically 1/3 for each one of them, an even chance that they produce as the top wide receiver in fantasy for this team, it means that you've got really good value there. And look back to last season, like the only sample that we have when we have Nico and Tank Dell both healthy, it was basically a split. Nico had 3 more receptions, 40 more total yards, and 2 fewer touchdowns. And again, that was as a rookie for Tank Dell. Are we really sure that Nico is the one we want first? And then you think about Diggs. Well, he's turning 31 this season. He's changing teams. He's coming off his worst season in Buffalo, second worst season of his career in terms of yards per target. So again, I'm not saying Tank is definitely going to be first, but I'm saying I don't know. And if I don't know and the ADP gap is that wide, I think we're getting a really good discount on Tank Dell. So if you agree, you want to draft some Tank Dell right now before his ADP rises, head on over to Underdog, sign up for your first account today using promo code FFA. You will not only get the promotions they have going on, which will increase your deposit, it'll give you a free pick'em special, but also you get all of my draft rankings free, not only Underdog. So if you just want to get my redraft rankings for this season, to have my rankings in July, in August for your redraft league, you sign up for Underdog using promo code FFA, deposit at least $10, you're gonna get my Underdog rankings and my redraft rankings both for free, plus again, whatever Underdog gives you as far as a sign up bonus. Personally, when you do sign up, I would join the puppy. If you don't know anything about the contest right now, I joined the puppy. It's one of the cheaper ones to enter. It's only $5, and they have a really, really strong payout structure. Again, if you use promo code FFA, you'll also be able to load my rankings updated daily into the app, so you can draft with those on the app. But back to our last year 2 wide receiver. Another one I think is priced appropriately right now is Jayden Reed. Wide receiver 34 in drafts, going in the late 5th round Underdog redraft leagues. That's probably mid round 7. Again, we don't just have accurate ADPs for redraft right now, so I'm just kind of guessing, but around the mid 7th round. He's actually 23rd in points per game as a rookie, so you can look at that and be like, oh, is that like a really good value? I think it's a good value. I don't think it's as good a value as maybe Tank Dell is. 8 receiving touchdowns on 64 receptions. That's a pretty high rate. Maybe that kind of comes down as far as like, touchdowns per reception rate. But also 2 rushing touchdowns on 11 carries. That's going to, inflate his production a little bit, having those 10 touchdowns. We had Romeo Doubs out-target him in the red zone and the green zone. We had Christian Watson being only 1 target behind Reed in those areas, and Reed still led the team with 10 total touchdowns. Also worth noting, it was crazy last season how few touchdowns the running backs had. Packers score 42 touchdowns. That's a pretty good number. I think this season I haven't projected around like 45, 46. I think they're going to be a little bit better than last season, but they were still really good last year. So it's going to be a strong offense. Going to be a lot of touchdowns go around. But of those 42 last year, only 10 were rushing. We already said we had 2 from Jayden Reed. 4 were also by Jordan Love. So the running backs last season, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, had 4 total rushing touchdowns. I feel pretty good projecting an increase in those areas. Like, I don't think Jacobs is going to have like 20 rushing touchdowns. I think if he got to 20 touchdowns, a good chunk would come through the air, but I don't think he's going to have 4. I think Jacobs is a good running back. I think they're going to use him in the red zone. I think it was just variance there, them throwing a lot in the red zone and having those touchdowns. The running back's going to score more than 4 this season. So I think the big point of Jayden Reed is great player, can definitely be better in year 2, but there's definitely like legitimate reasons his ADP should be lower than his finish as a rookie. And the biggest one is the touchdowns per touch are probably going to drop, and his touches can only go so high because it's such a good team. You've got so many good players. Jayden Reed's not going to go out there and have 150 targets. Like, that's just not really in his range of outcomes, no matter how good he is. You've also got Christian Watson. Maybe this season he can be healthy, and if that happens, that'll obviously hurt the target share for Jayden Reed. So again, reasons to be, cautious and be like, okay, his ADP is further back from a rookie, and that makes sense. But I put him into that same bucket as Flowers. I don't think Zay Flowers or Jayden Reed are going to be the reason you win a championship, but not everyone you draft needs to be the reason you win a championship. You really only need 1 or 2 players that you draft to be that reason, to be that true breakout. I think that both of these players at their ADP are just incredibly strong picks. They're not going to be the reason you lose. So not going to be the reason you win. Neither one of them is probably going to finish top 5 at their position, but I don't think they're going to bust. I think you'll be able to use them for the entire season, and that is still incredibly valuable in fantasy, having that level of confidence in a player. The 2 that I do think have league winning upside, though, Puka, even at that ADP, so even taking him, 9th, 10th, 11th overall, right before that round 1 turn into round 2, I think even taking him that early, he could have 110 receptions for 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. And that would be a league-winning season no matter where you drafted that player. So I think Puka, I think Tank Dell as well, both have league-winning upside. 2 players I'd be, very comfortable targeting aggressively. But then again, with Puka, you only need to target him so aggressively, right? You don't have to take him first overall. You can take him in the late first. So those 4 are my favorite second-year wide receivers in drafts right now. On Friday, we're going to do the opposite of this video, talking about second-year wide receivers I would not be drafting, that I don't love the value on. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that one. And be sure to leave a like if you watch this far as well. And also remember the Underdog promo going on right now. You can get both my redraft and my Underdog rankings for this season for free. All you have to do is sign up for your first Underdog account today using promo code FFA and deposit at least $10. That is it. It's a really great way to get the rankings, and I really do think you guys will love Underdog if you give it a chance. And again, when you join the puppy. So that, my friends, is the end of this one. Hope you all enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? How about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.